Welcome to PAB 2010.
When I was back in TV school, I had this professor, and he used to tell me, you know, it's not just about when you're framing up a shot, when you're composing a shot, it's not just about getting the subject of that shot in the right frame. It's about what's going on in the background, too. You always have to pay attention to the background because, unfortunately, if you don't, it can actually have some undesirable results, right? And so, or maybe it can be desirable. But if you don't pay attention to the background of what you're doing, then, when it comes to video, for sure, I've had entire shoots ruined because there was a microphone in the shot that somebody didn't see, or because there was a light stand or a cable running through the shot, or there was somebody goofing off in the background of the interview. And, it can cause real problems. So you always have to really pay attention to the background. Another concept that we learned back in TV school, and if you're into photography or film or video, you'll know about this. It's called depth of field. And the really simple explanation for depth of field is just the relationship between what is in focus in the shot and what isn't in focus in the shot. So, for example, if you've got a really shallow depth of field, then it means you've got one thing in your frame that is clearly in focus, and everything else around it is out of focus. It's blurry. On the other hand, if you have a deep depth of field, it means that everything in the frame is really relatively in focus, right? So everything is clear from the very foreground right to the back. And often, shallow depth of field is used for dramatic effect, right? You really want to highlight one specific, really important thing in your frame, and everything else really just is sort of blurred and secondary in the background. And on the other hand, though, when you have a deep depth of field, like I said, everything is relatively in focus. So you're really presenting this wide-angle view of everything that's going on, and it's all very clear. And I think as content creators, one of the problems that a lot of us face, I think that the panel actually addressed this a bit, yesterday was, we feel like we have to present just a very focused point of who we are. We feel like, my topic is business, or my topic is quilting, or my topic is soccer. And we sort of forget that there's all of this other stuff going on behind us and around us that sort of makes up what our stories are. It makes up who we are. I want to share with you a legend that the Haida elders actually told me when I was a child. And it sort of goes something like this. So there was the creator was very displeased with the villagers. They were treating each other poorly. They were doing a lot of really bad things. The creator decided, that's it, that's enough, I'm destroying the village. And so the creator, what he did was he dumped a great snowfall on the village. And being from Ottawa, I think, well, great snowfall, big deal, right? We get all kinds of snow. But I tell you, I lived on the Queen Charlotte's for 7 years, and they don't get a lot of snow there. So dumping a great snowfall would be absolutely devastating. There was a father and a son, and what they were able to do is they were able to hide underneath a plank and protect themselves from the snowfall. And once the danger had passed, they were able to get out of the hole they had created, and they started to run away from the village. And they were running, and the father looked at the son, and he said, "Whatever you do, son, do not look back. Don't look back at the village, whatever you do." Well, the son, being a kid, not wanting to listen to his parents, curiosity got the best of him, and he looked back at the village. And the instant he looked back at the village, he was turned into a great golden tree. He was frozen in time forever on that very spot. This is a picture of a tree known as the golden spruce. And this was the tree that young boy was turned into, according to the legend. The golden spruce existed on Haida Gwaii for more than 300 years. What was interesting about this tree was that it had no chlorophyll in its needles. It was a genetic anomaly. They have never found another tree like this that has survived, especially for as long as it did. And what was really cool about this tree is that you would go to see it, and if the sun was hitting it the right way, it would have this great, beautiful golden glow. It was really amazing, and you can sort of see it in this picture here. My dad took this picture, I think, about 1980. You know, the reason that Aboriginal peoples share legends is it's a way of them explaining the world around them, and it's just a way of explaining and teaching lessons to people. And the lesson behind the story of the golden spruce was, first of all, listen to your parents, right? And second of all, it was about forward movement. They were teaching that you always need to be moving forward. You always need to be never looking back on the past, because if you look back on the past, you'll be frozen in time. So you always need to move forward. And there's some interesting things about legends that I think ties in really well to how we create content. So first of all, legends are sticky, right? We all want to be sticky. We all want to have sticky content. Legends are sticky. I was told this legend for the first time I was 10 years old, 30 years ago. To this day, I still remember it. To this day, it's still vivid in my mind. And, I think back to those elders sitting in my classroom sharing these things with us, and I think, wow, imagine having content that would endure for that long, for that many years. And that's only 30 years. They've been telling these legends for 300 years. Second of all, the teller of the legend absolutely believes this story. Those elders absolutely believe that that little boy turned into that tree and was frozen in time inside of that tree. They absolutely believe it with all of their being. Because they believe it, they're passionate about it, right? And when they tell something passionately, it sticks. It sticks with you. And finally, the really most amazing thing about legends is that they get shared. Legends are completely shareable. This story has been passed on from great-grandparents to grandparents to grandchildren to people like me, to people like you. The legends are completely shareable. And when you think about your own content, what would you rather have? Would you rather have content that is really amazing and you get this really great spike in your hits and things like that? You get this tremendous spike and everybody's commenting and everybody's coming up to you and saying, hey, that was a great post. Oh, that was awesome. And then a couple days later, everybody sort of forgets about you and, they go back to their normal lives. Or would you rather have content that endures? Imagine your content, the things that you're producing now, still being relevant, still being around, still being something that people are sharing 30 years from now. It would be kind of a neat thing. So what you need to do then is you need to, first of all, find your story. And I think all of us in this room are doing a pretty good job of finding out what our stories are. You need to know that story better than anything. You need to be able to tell that story backwards and forwards and upside down and know the story. And if you know it better than anything, then you can tell it passionately, right? You can give that passion to it, and you can compel other people by what you're saying. So I want you to start being legendary in your approach to your content. I want you to focus on having that passion in what you're doing, in the way you're telling your stories. In 1997, the golden spruce was cut down by a madman. And it was an extremely devastating event for the people of Haida Gwaii and for people like myself who had grown so attached to that community. And, but it's not all terrible because the legend lives on. We're still able to share that story with people. We're still able to pass it on, and we're still able to remember what this great tree stood for and what it meant to the people that lived by it and that lived by the principles that it stood for.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.